A lightsaber blade socket is the non-visible space inside a lightsaber emitter section where the blade or the blade plug attaches to the hilt. And the lightsaber blade socket depth in particular can really affect some of the selections you might make for blades and for other accessories. So let's go a little bit more in depth into depth. I didn't mean to say that, but anyway, that's how it came out. Now, lightsaber blade socket depth, what is it? So, lightsaber blade socket depth is the measurement of the, from the in-hilt LED all the way to the emitter section. So, on this hilt, it's about 2 inches maybe. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Now, if you do have a hilt that has a slanted emitter like this, your measurement will be to the bottom of the kind of slanted emitter rather than the top. So we have the in-hilt LED right about here, and then the bottom of the emitter is here. So it actually has pretty much the same socket depth as that other hilt right there. Now, some hilts, especially thin-necked hilts, have a very shallow blade socket depth. So let's take a look at that. This is only maybe an inch, and there's just, not very much space here. And it's very classic lightsaber look, right? Kind of a classic original trilogy Obi-Wan Kenobi style lightsaber hilt or Luke Skywalker style lightsaber hilt will have a thin neck like this, and generally the socket depth is just, a bit lower, bit more shallow. Now, the socket depth can vary a lot. Okay, so I just showed a few examples of that. A lot of times the blade socket depth will be maybe about 1.5 inches or 2 inches or so, but it can range. So it can be, 1 inch deep. It could be 4 inches deep for, a very deep socket depth. So it just depends. And it's not necessarily standardized with one company. So it could be different from hilt to hilt, even within the same company. So that's something to be aware of in advance of buying a lightsaber. And a reason why that's important too is it could relate to your blade selection. So if you have a 36-inch blade and you're getting a lightsaber that has a 1-inch socket depth, that means it's going to eat away 1 inch of the bottom of the blade. And so the visible portion of your blade will be 35 inches. So that doesn't really change the blade length all that much. But if you have a really deep socket depth of 4 inches, for example, then that's cutting your 36-inch blade down by 4 inches. So it's cutting it down to 32 inches. Or in the case of a 24-inch blade, if you're using a 24-inch blade with a lightsaber hilt that has a 4-inch blade socket, then that's cutting your 24-inch blade down to 20 inches. So that's definitely something to look at. It can really change kind of the overall appearance of the hilt. And the socket depth also affects sort of the stability and balance of the hilt too. So if it's a more shallow depth, it's not really as stable, and the kind of balance point on the hilt is a bit higher up the hilt. And if you have a deeper socket depth, it sort of secures the blade a bit better, and it also helps you control the lightsaber a bit more because it moves that balance point a bit down the hilt. So those are really some of the main things to consider regarding blade socket depth. Feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear from you as always.